Tuesday, we learned that Democrats actually don't know how to rig an election. Donald Trump swept all the swing states, won the popular vote, and Republicans took back control of the Senate. But don't you guys worry. If I know Democrats, they're going to take a long look in the mirror, learn from their mistakes, and then run Biden again in 2028.
Yes. Remember comedy before they murdered it? It was so much better then, wasn't it? But that wasn't an entirely bad joke, because it wouldn't be entirely surprising if Joe Biden were their nominee the next time around. Just out of some sense of bitterness and failure, rancor, and dementia, because there's a lot of Democrat Party dementia going on. More and more Democrats are coming out. They're coming out of the closet and saying, hey, I actually voted for Trump this time. Last time, no. The time before that, no. But this time I voted for Donald Trump. Isn't that peculiar? Ain't that peculiar? All kinds of wacky going on. You remember Michael Moore, the odoriferous Michael Moore, the oleaginous Michael Moore, a grotesque representation of the radical left in America, multimillionaire, flies private, multiple homes, and Bolshevik, America hating, capitalism hating. They're not well, these people. But just a week ago, now where are we? It's Monday. It was not yet a week ago that we had an election. Wasn't that great? Wasn't that a riot? That was a ton of fun, I've got to say. And Michael Moore was out there, grotesque figure that he is, a week ago today, declaring that that election day will mark Donald Trump's last political appearance. That would be his last political appearance. Right as usual, Michael Moore. Michael Moore and the Democrats, it would be almost impossible to be more wrong than they are about everything. And I'm not going to say it's because they're evil, Satan-worshiping, Hitlerian fascists, although they are. But I won't say that because, see, that's called a paralipsis. That's a paralipsis. It's a rhetorical device where you say that you would never call your opponent a fascist, even though they are. It's kind of a fun rhetorical device. The Democrats use it all the time, I think, without knowing it. But there it is. And Michael Moore, liberal filmmaker Michael Moore, confidently declares Trump is toast. Toast. That's what they said. Remarkable stuff. And we got Hollywood people. They may never play a role in politics again. Even George Clooney. Is he moving anywhere, or is he just said he's going to shut up and get back in his limo and his Gulfstream jet and go from Beverly Hills to Bel Air for lunch and leave it at that? Maybe to Malibu to do whatever. But that's it. And now he's decided maybe he doesn't know so much about politics. I could have told him that a long time ago, but I don't play dress up and make believe for a living, and he does. Michael, what was he dressed up as over the weekend? Was it man clothes or was it lady clothes? What was going on there? I tell you, I'd be happy to hear from Democrats today. Democrat voters, Kamala voters, Joe Biden voters, Hillary voters, Obama voters. Have you woken up yet? Wake up, wake up, wake up. Are your eyes open yet? Because, your party is just, I don't want to curse. I'll just say they're out to lunch. They're completely mad. And so many, even Democrats, are realizing that this is not the party that they grew up with, that they voted for, that they raised money for. As a woman wrote a piece today, she was on the television too, but I think we didn't pull any audio of her, saying that she raised $50 million for the Democrats. Young woman, Democrat woman from the Kansas City, Missouri area. Big Democrat activist. She says she raised $50 million, $50 million for the Democrats, and she voted for Donald Trump a week ago yesterday, or perhaps she voted early. I don't know on what day she voted, but remarkable stuff. Just wah, wah, wah. In Minnesota, a father murdered his wife, ex, and 2 children, and you'll never guess whose fault it is. Okay, you'll probably guess it's Trump's fault that he did it, because there are a lot of mental cases out there. Just extraordinary stuff. President Trump spoke to Vlad the Impaler Putin. spoke to Vlad, and the Democrats are really upset because Joe Biden never talked to anybody because he doesn't know what a telephone does anymore. He can't figure out these complex devices. But Trump talked to Putin, and Trump told him not to escalate in Ukraine because there's a new sheriff in town. The sheriff is near, and look out for him because now Putin is quaking in his moccasins, and not to mention the Ayatollahs talk about moccasins because now there's going to be a reckoning. You know how the news media loves that word, reckoning. They like to think that there's a reckoning for all kinds of things, but usually there is no reckoning when the Washington Post and the other media say there's a reckoning. But Trump talked to Putin, the Washington Post, told Russian leader not to escalate in Ukraine. That seems like a good idea. Maybe even a little more than that. And then he said, strong letter to follow. Strong letter to follow. Speaking of which, a letter came from the Biden White House inviting President Trump to the White House for an Oval Office meeting on Wednesday. That's the day after tomorrow for Democrats following along that don't have a calendar right in front of them. Today's Monday, and so Wednesday is day after tomorrow. And Biden, because he's so gracious and he's a foreign policy expert, has invited President Trump to the White House for a powwow. I don't know if Elizabeth Warren's going to be there or not, but there's going to be a powwow and maybe headdresses and things, remarkable stuff. And listen to this, the British Broadcasting Corporation, the BBC, optimism and uncertainty as Middle East awaits Trump's return. Well, of course there's uncertainty. It's the Middle Stinking East. Don't be ridiculous. There's been uncertainty there since dirt was new, since thousands of years before the birth of Jesus Christ. There's been uncertainty, so I'd expect continued uncertainty in the Middle East. But optimism being the key word, that's the first word in the BBC headline, because President Trump is back, and he got 3 peace deals between Israel and Arab countries, was on the precipice, if you will, of getting a peace deal between Israel and Saudi Arabia when things went terribly wrong. And the left, they're not the party of peace. They're the party of the military-industrial complex and death. There have been, and for how long have I been saying, hey, where are the peace talks for Ukraine? Where's our chief diplomat or Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, who's the guy, by the way, that incited and instigated that insurrection by the 51 intelligence officials, and he should be held to account. Gulags. We're going to have to reopen Manzanar, I think, where the Democrats put all the Japanese Americans in concentration camps. Might have to reopen Manzanar. They got a bunch of the Democrats who opened a lot of concentration camps, racist concentration camps during World War II. Democrats did because they're racists. And maybe we're going to have to reopen because they got so many crazy criminals. We'll make some of them mental institutions because, and they'll have nice desert air. It'll be good for them because there are a lot of mental cases out there. Boy, are there. Also, did you see the you get Democrats in the permanent bureaucracy in the deep state. And here's one. FEMA official ordered relief workers to skip houses with Trump signs. This woman, I'm thinking electric chair. We're definitely going Manzanar, public out on a platform, live on cable, electric chair. For this woman, what a fascist, what a Nazi, what a little Hitler. Again, you give a lefty a thimble full of power, and before the sun goes down, they'll abuse the hell out of it. So this woman, she's been fired. FEMA fires employee, the Federal Emergency Management Agency for Democrats. FEMA fires employee who told Florida Relief to skip Trump supporters. Now, and then she fired on Fort Sumter, and then she self-immolated. She should probably, if she had any sense of decency at all, self-immolation would be the only exit for her. Isn't that amazing stuff? And there is, speaking of coup plotters and insurrection, Pentagon officials, plural, discussing how to respond if Trump issues controversial orders. You know what? You follow it, mamma jammas, or you end up in the gulag in Manzanar too, because, this is the left. They're a toxin everywhere you look. There are generals and Pentagon officials who are Biden sycophants, of course, and voted for Kamala. And they're thinking, hey, wait a minute. There was a landslide election of Donald Trump. How do we undermine him? That's literal treason. And if you're in military uniform, you need to be dragged away. You literally need to be dragged away because this is one of the most. This is 7 days in May. This is a coup. This is an overthrow of the government by your own military. In case you were wondering whether we're a third world country yet or whether the left is really in charge in the United States, this is an absolutely extraordinary story. And, I don't want to say they ought to be gassed, but it's kind of fun to say they ought to be gassed just as a turn of phrase, because it's fun. Maybe I'm just talking chase them down the street firing tear gas canisters at them because these people have no business in government. They do have business in a penitentiary. And this FEMA person who said don't go if they've got Trump signs or Trump bumper stickers on the cars in their driveways, then FEMA is not here for you. Now, I'm not in favor of putting anybody in prison for anything unless you're shooting people. This, I'll make an exception here. This woman actually deserves, I'd say, a couple of years in prison, 2 to 25 years. Well, let's just give her whatever the maximum for January 6th was handed out. Oh, wait, that's 22 years, 22 years for Enrique Tarrio, who wasn't even in Washington on January 6th. He was in a hotel room in Baltimore, and he's a black guy from a Cuban-American family, and they put him in prison for 22 years. He wasn't even there. Not only did he not hit anybody, break anything, or steal anything, he literally wasn't even there. Bring me a small liar. Just amazing stuff. And this is your Democrat Party. And how Kamala Harris plowed through $1 billion, the Washington Examiner. You see that they paid Orca $1 million. They paid Orca $1 million to show up at because she's already worth how much? $2 or $3 billion at least, right? And they paid her $1 million. So if you donated money to the Harris campaign, and then you're an idiot, and you should know it. And if you don't know it, stay here because I'm going to share information with you that will make you realize that you're an idiot. And I know that could be valuable to you since you're an idiot. But they also paid $100,000 to build a podcast set in a hotel room in Washington, D.C. to do a Who's Your Daddy podcast. It's Who's Your Daddy, right? Who's your daddy? And that's pretty amazing stuff. So if you donate, there are people out there who donated $100,000 to the Kamala Harris campaign. And if you donated $100,000, first of all, they gave Orca $1 million to show, and they're like, oh, we love her so much. We love Kamala. And there are reports that are being contested about Beyonce being paid a lot of money, too. The fact checkers say it's not true, but the fact checkers are wrong all the time, and they lie a lot, and we've got all that remarkable stuff. So the $1 billion, where did it go? And I got a fundraising text from the Kamala Harris campaign over the weekend. I told you on Friday that I had been getting texts from them asking me if I would make phone calls for the Harris-Walz campaign to try to encourage people to get out and vote. And I almost took him up on it to do, like, prank calls. And I'm kind of busy, so I didn't get to that. But it would have been fun. Certainly would have been fun to do it because these people. Also, today is Veterans Day. Today is Veterans Day. And yesterday, my best girl and I, we went downtown in front of the National Archives for the Veterans Day Parade. And our friends were very much involved in the Veterans Day Parade. And it was a very nice event. Good fun had by all. Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer was a friend of everyone, friend of America. He was the MC, or I'm not sure what a specific title was, but I think he was the master of ceremonies. And it was great fun. The beautiful downtown Washington, D.C., beautiful yesterday. It's very nice this time of year. We've got a lot of crazy. James Carville, speaking of crazy. And he figured out why she lost. It all boils down to one question and one interview. See, I told you she shouldn't have done any interviews at all. Isn't that amazing? Sonia Sotomayor, what's she doing? Because the Democrats are trying to put the hit on her. They're trying to drive her to a cliff and push her off so they can replace her with Chairman Mao or Pol Pot or somebody on the amazing stuff. And one of my favorites from the weekend, Katie Porter, you know, Congresswoman Katie Porter, the earth is on fire and we're all going to die soon, Katie Porter. She's got a new one. Her daughter, who was 9 then, is 12 now. You'll never guess what has her terrified today. It's even crazier than the other thing. We are at 888-630-9625.
The Bullocks next door, real right-wingers. American flag up every day. Real fascists. Ought to be gassed. You know the type.
All right, I know people are clamoring to talk, too, and that's good, clamoring to talk, because this is talk radio. That's what we do here. And the Democrats, their mental meltdown is, it's enjoyable in its own way, isn't it? It's kind of amusing. Where filthy media, they're not covering it very much. But every now and then something slips out in one of their idiot channels. Let's go to the telephones right now, Michael. Let's go to Jay, calling from Florida. You can call me Jay. You're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, good morning, Chris. I'm glad that President Trump got reelected and that there were no riots, which was a double good thing. Hey, quick question. Does Al Sharpton not look like a bobblehead doll to you? So,
I would not speak so hurtfully of bobblehead dolls.
Well, you know, I mean, they're very collectible now, the old ones. So anyway, the people losing their minds is hilarious. They're actually even better than 4 years ago. They are pretty funny. I have to admit that. So,
well, in the riots,
again,
I've got to say, let me tell you something, Jay. My best girl and I didn't go. I was at work, but she went to the grocery store and we stocked up for days of riots. We laid on. We were Election Day preppers because we live in Washington D.C. in the city, and our neighborhood has been looted repeatedly by the Democrats. Neighborhood around this radio station has been looted repeatedly by the Democrats, including fairly recently. The violence, the mayhem, the arson, the looting from the Democrat Party that they've normalized and made a part of our political discourse. We literally stocked up on stuff for Election Day, anticipating riots. Now, they've got a march planned. They say, you know, millions of people on January 18th in Washington, D.C., and now they've got a new one. They say 50,000 people on Inauguration Day in Washington, D.C., so they're not done yet. You know, they're violent, right?
Well, right. How many people are going to miss work for those rallies? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that?
Well, and in D.C., you know what? Last time I looked, the federal government office buildings were only 25% occupied because 75% of the federal government workforce has not come back to work, which is kind of fun. But you're right. Look, I'm glad we've made it this far without the Democrats rioting and burning and sacking and plundering. And, yes, on Al Sharpton, of course. Yes. Veterans Day today, a federal and national holiday. Again, my best girl and I yesterday downtown Washington, D.C., just off the mall on Constitution Avenue for the Veterans Day parade and events, festivities, marching bands, police. The D.C. Fire Department came out with 2 hook and ladder trucks and raised a gigantic American flag over Constitution Avenue by the National Archives, where we keep the Constitution, all kinds of sacred documents that the Democrats would burn given half a chance. I was bantering back and forth with a friend. I don't like to use names unless absolutely necessary, but a friend here in the Washington, D.C. area, lives right here in the Washington, D.C. area. And he said his next-door neighbor, is a 3-letter agency person. You know, we have lots of 3-letter agencies and therefore lots of 3-letter agency people in the area. And the 3-letter agency person said to my friend, a Trump supporter, said, you know, it's one thing to be elected, but it's another thing to be inaugurated. Kind of a shady Soviet way of saying don't count your chickens because, you know, let's not forget who's out here, a gang of Marxists who President Trump was already grazed with one rifle round, and then another guy in the bushes with another rifle, and another guy in Idaho who was arrested for threatening to kill, and the Iranians are hell-bent on assassinating President Trump, a Pakistani man arrested in New York a few weeks ago that was sent here by the Iranians to arrange for the assassination of Donald Trump. Being the head of Trump's security detail is not the most desirable position in the Secret Service or any place else. Remarkable stuff. We've got a lot going on in this country, and the Marxists are in charge of the Democrat Party, and they're not on our side. In fact, they're closer on the political spectrum to the Ayatollahs in Tehran than they are to the Republican Party, certainly. And they're closer on the political spectrum to the Ayatollah and his cohort and to the Islamic Revolution in Iran. They're closer. The many in the Democrat Party on the left are closer on the political spectrum to Iran than they are to the Republican Party. And, honestly, I think Barack Obama might fall into that category. He's the one who made sure that tens and tens of billions of dollars, maybe hundreds of billions of dollars, flowed into the coffers of the Islamic Revolution so they can wage war against Western civilization. And, that teenage mentorship by Frank Marshall Davis of the Communist Party, mentoring Barack Obama as a teenager, really paying off all these years later, isn't it? The fundamental transformation of America. And as I pointed out before, because it's true, on the political spectrum today, the Democrat Party is closer to Lee Harvey Oswald than they are to John F. Kennedy. I'm much closer to John F. Kennedy on the political spectrum than the Democrats are today. And they're much closer to Lee Harvey Oswald, a communist. And he shot and killed President Kennedy, or maybe the deep state did it. The Democrats have an alternative. Well, maybe the deep state did it, but we're not going to release the documents from the CIA. Remarkable. And, of course, with all their anti-Israel, pro-Hamas stuff, the Democrats are closer on the political spectrum today to Sirhan Sirhan than they are to Robert F. Kennedy Sr. Isn't that amazing? Also, speaking of which, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was vocal over the weekend, and he's come out and talking about the food supply in the United States. And honestly, he's got a lot of talking points that ought to be listened to because he might be a bit of an oddball, but he's not an idiot. He's an intelligent person, a well-educated person. Not that that counts for much these days, but never mind that. Remarkable things going on all over the place. Everywhere, I'm telling you. And just see, there's a funny video on Al Gore's amazing internet of a woman, an African-American woman, talking about how disappointed she is after the Trump election. She's a Trump supporter, but she's talking about how disappointed she is with so many on the left that have made promises or threats, depending on how you look at them, and all that good stuff. But I tell you what, before we go to her, I want to, one of our favorite members of Congress for many years has been a Democrat from California by the name of Katie Porter. You remember Katie Porter? She is really a piece of work. She's a typical Democrat. That is to say, delusional, unintelligent, unserious, confused, a complete mess psychologically. And she apparently has a daughter. She still has a daughter, right? Isn't that true? Womp, womp, womp. Katie Porter, she's an American politician. She's a lawyer. She's been a U.S. representative from California, the 47th District, since 2023. Wow. She previously represented the 45th Congressional District. She moved from one district to another because it's just a job. It's like being a car salesman. And if you lose your job over here at the Nissan dealership, you go over there to the Prius dealership, and you do it. But you may recall Katie Porter a couple of years ago. It was 3 years ago now, when her daughter was only 9 years old. Her little daughter was only 9. And Katie Moore, Congresswoman, it was during a congressional hearing, so she, the witnesses at least were under oath. And they were piping in Greta von Thunberg, the one of the teen prophets that the Democrats abuse and then throw over the cliff, kick to the curb. And Sorry, I was watching Yellowstone last night. So now I'm taking him to the train depot, the train station, and they got thrown off the cliff there. So I have that image in my mind today, I guess. And my best girl, she likes that TV show, Yellowstone. And so we were watching it last night. But Katie Porter, 3 years ago, talking about with Greta von Thunberg, the child prophet of doom, the apocalyptic messenger, one of them of the Democrat Party. And they love using children like David Hogg on guns and Greta von Thunberg on their fake weather agenda, which they're going to fix. They're going to make it better. But you may remember this 3 years ago because Greta Thunberg is being piped in. So Congresswoman Katie Porter from California is talking to young Greta, teenage prophet of doom, and she told this story.
I told my 9-year-old daughter that I was going to be speaking with you, and I said, what do you think about climate change? And she said, the earth is on fire, and we're all going to die soon. And I asked her how that made her feel, and she said it made her feel angry.
Naturally, it made her feel angry, and then she looted a bank and burned a police car, even though she's 9 years old. Isn't that amazing? She was 9 years old 3 years ago, and that's what she said. But and I love that when her daughter tells her, the earth is on fire and we're all going to die soon. She doesn't say, oh, honey, come here and hug her and pat her on the head and tell her, no, you're going to grow old and you're going to live a prosperous life in the greatest country that God ever created. Say none of that would come into play. There's no God. There's no greatest country. There's no future for her daughter. It's doom. It's apocalypse. It's certain death in no time at all. The earth is on fire and we're all going to die soon. And she didn't comfort her. She said, how does that make you feel?
And I asked her how that made her feel, and she said it made her feel angry.
And for Congresswoman Porter, that was the most gratifying answer from her 9-year-old daughter. It made her angry because she may. So I've got an update now. No, she hasn't self-immolated yet, the daughter, but that could come any day now because now she's 12 years old. And let me share with you, the Hindustan Times is covering the story, but the Los Angeles Times is not. Katie Porter, this is literally the headline in the Hindustan Times. That's India, the empire. And Katie Porter accused of brainwashing her 12-year-old daughter into worrying about abortion if she gets raped. This is what Democrats consider to be parenting. I'm thinking it's time for Child Protective Services and a pre-dawn raid, maybe the FBI with rifles and helmets and body armor, shoot the dog, bring a CNN camera crew, the usual FBI kind of thing. So there it is. People are blasting Congresswoman Katie Porter after her contentious story time on The Issue went viral on social media. Elon Musk and swimmer Riley Gaines also slammed her. And again, I'm reading from the Hindustan Times in India. There is not a filthy, stinking, rotten, dirty, useless American newspaper that covers the news anymore. But you can go to the Hindustan Times because why not? And so she did this podcast, and in the podcast, again, they get it. They know the 12-year-old, now 3 years later, 12-year-old daughter is concerned that she's going to be raped, I assume, by Venezuelan gang members with Tren de Aragua that her mother waved into the country with those flashlights that like they use at airports. I'm going like this, 2 flashlights and waving the Venezuelan gangs in who are raping and murdering all over the country. And the Democrats, they're okay with that because, boy, they're not on our side. So now she's being, and Elon Musk has weighed in and just great stuff. And thank God for Elon Musk. He couldn't be greater. He is, who was I texting? Oh, with Sebastian Gorka yesterday. With Sebastian Gorka going back and forth. And talking about Elon Musk. And I used to think that Elon Musk was like the Howard Hughes of our time, the great industrialist, tycoon, eccentric, and a filmmaker, but an extraordinary Renaissance man in his time. Howard Hughes, the Spruce Goose, airplanes, high-speed stuff. He was remarkable. Elon Musk is not only the Howard Hughes of our time. I think he's the Leonardo da Vinci of our time. I think he's an extraordinary figure in the sweep of history. But let's get back to Katie Porter, because here's Katie Porter Katie Porter said that, man, oh man, that her daughter, who's 12, where does she learn this stuff? From her mother, who should be in Manzanar. She really, and she, I'm kidding about the Manzanar. It's a joke. I'm mocking the Democrats for their gulag mentality, which they most definitely possess. So here is Congresswoman Katie Porter.
So on election night, I went to pick up my daughter from water polo practice, and she's 12, and she got in the car and she was crying. And I said, did someone punch you? Like, water polo is a rough sport. I was like, did someone hit you? Did the coach yell at you? What happened? And she said, Mom, Trump won. Trump's going to win. And what if I get raped and I need to have an abortion? This is from a 12-year-old, my 12-year-old daughter. And so it was really a reminder of how scary this time is for people, and how important it is for Democrats to have strategies, both at the state level and the federal level, to make sure that we can continue to protect people's rights.
Wow. That is like Jonestown mass suicide death cult stuff. That is so demented. You are such a horrible mother. You are the worst mother I've ever heard of in my life. That's just an extraordinary thing. Trump is going to win. What if I get raped and need to have an abortion? Wow. I got to tell you, Katie Porter, Mother of the Year. The Democrat Party should send her the Mother of the Year award, but from Planned Parenthood, don't you think? Does Planned Parenthood give Mother of the Year awards? Because that'd be ironic, wouldn't it? That'd be kind of fun. Lucite blocks, maybe small golden statuette. That's just great stuff. They are amazing. All right, let's take a phone call, Michael. That's a typical Democrat. Vote for them. And honestly, shall I go down the list of women that have been attacked and murdered by illegal aliens since the Democrat Party opened up the border and waved them in with those airport flashlights? Let's go to Steve. Whoa, hang on. Let's go to Steve calling from Budapest, Hungary. Stephen, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris. Good
Hey
morning.
there. Good morning to you. Welcome.
Hi. Well, I wanted to quickly let you know, with all the meltdown that's going on in the U.S., the Hungarians, as I read and look at the Hungarian press and TV, are happy that Donald Trump has been reelected, because they know that a strong America is a safer Hungary and Europe. Pretty simple. They know that we can't be as safe a world without strong leadership in the U.S. So I thought I'd pass that on.
I think that is a wonderful thing to pass along, and I appreciate that very much. And of course, Hungary is fortunate to have Viktor Orban in charge, right?
Yes, that's right. And he is one of the first people to have been in contact with President Trump. And as a small country here, Hungary really does punch above their own weight when it comes to the EU and a lot of things that are going on in the world. And my contacts with the people here, they're generally, probably even more than in the U.S., glad that we're going to have some good representation for the U.S. on the world stage and also for Europe. Now, we understand that it's not 0 to 100. I mean, it's a complex world, but Hungary borders Ukraine, and so there's direct impact for Hungary from what's going on in Ukraine. So they want things settled so they can get on with life.
Right. End the war in Europe between Russia and Ukraine. That'd be a popular move in Hungary.
Yes, they do. Because as I followed the news here, the Hungarian foreign minister was saying that how much effort, how much money is going into this that can't be used for other purposes. So there is definitely interest in the war being over, so that Hungary, which has only taken on refugees, but there's just instability. They want to get on. They want to grow their economy. Money being sucked into what's going on in Ukraine can't be used for more valuable purposes, let's say.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now I gotta fly. I'm sorry to say, Steve, but you're living there in Budapest now. Is that correct?
No, I'm not living here. I live back in the U.S. Thankfully, I'm a proud American. I'm here because I'm traveling. I have relatives I've been here often, and so I'm here just on a short holiday and some other purposes. The one thing I will say is that at the bottom of the news, like on the crawl, they're showing the numbers of electors that Harris and Trump got, and that is the lead story in most of the news.
That is great.
Our election.
That is great. Thank you, Steve. God bless you, and have a great time in Budapest. And I'm thankful for Viktor Orban. And since you mentioned the Electoral College, I've got something on that coming up on the count. I've got that coming up for you, too. Thanks, Steve. Now, on Election Day, I was invited to be on a great radio show, J.D. Hayworth's radio show in Arizona, and I went on with J.D., former Republican member of the House of Representatives. And it's Election Day, and really, I think none of the polls had closed by the time I went on in the 6 p.m. hour Eastern time. And J.D. said, "Hey, Chris, what do you think's going to happen tonight?" And I just wanted to share with you the response that I gave.
We just want to have a nice, clean, straight-up presidential election, have President Trump win 311 electoral votes, and then we all pop champagne, and in Washington, D.C., they loot the downtown business district.
Sure, loot the downtown. And that's why we had, Election Day prepping going on here. But I was just talking casually to JD, and I said, well, what happens? I just want to have it clean. And boy, we had a clean, pretty straight election. And President, I was wrong. I've got to admit that I was wrong, and I missed in my prediction. I said President Trump would win, would be awarded 311 electoral college votes. And I was wrong because he won 312 electoral votes in the Electoral College. So I missed it by that much. I'm holding my right index finger a quarter of an inch over my right thumb like this. And it was pretty good. I don't want to brag or anything, but that was pretty good. 311, I predicted 312, the final total.